بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الله أكبر واللعن الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Before we begin this lecture, the third of the series that we had, if I can request from all the brothers and the sisters that are hearing my voice to put their phones on a silent mode or turn off their mobile phones, because it distracts the speaker and it distracts the people that listen to the lecture at the same time. Jazakumullah khair jala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We began speaking about Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam in the Holy Quran, and we mentioned the verse or two yesterday, and we will carry on the same discussion tonight, but a different side to it. So yesterday we mentioned that the Holy Quran mentions Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam in various verses. These verses either directly mention Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam or indirectly. Inshallah, we'll come to the point of why the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam are not named by their own names. So for example, in Surah Al-Mubahilah, when the Prophet wanted to sit down with the Nasranis to see who was haqq, the verse says, نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَأَبْنَاءَنَا نِسَاؤُنَا وَنِسَاؤُكُمْ أنفسكم وأنفسنا وأنفسنا وأنفسكم. When the verse says that our sons and your sons, we will invite our sons and your sons, أبناؤنا وأبناؤكم, نساؤنا ونساؤكم, our ladies, your ladies, أنفسنا وأنفسكم. So who does the Prophet bring? This cannot be denied through the ahadith and through history. The Prophet brings himself and Ali for anfusana. So the nafs of the Prophet is Ali. The same as the Prophet is Ali. For women, he brings his daughter Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. For sons, he brings Hassan and Hussain. There is a clear mention of Abna'una wa Abna'ukum. So Imam Hussain is mentioned directly in this verse. Less directly, there is a surah entirely about Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, and Surah Al-Fajr. Surah Al-Fajr speaks about Imam Hussain all the way through, such as Layl Ashr, nights 10 nights, 10 nights of Muharram, 1st to the 10th of Muharram. On the 10th of Muharram is what? Ashura. And the ayah comes, أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Who is the nafs? It's the nafs of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. When the ruh exits his body and goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is happy with Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, راضي, رضاء Allah min Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, and the opposite, Imam Hussain is happy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We mentioned the notion of dhulm and injustice yesterday. We'll finish that and then move on to the opposite side, which is completion and iman. Because anybody that will have iman would not have the need to commit injustice. Anyone that commits injustice in dunya is committing it because of their incompleteness, because of their neediness. If they have Iman, they become complete. There is no need to commit injustice. There's a lack of Iman why they do this. Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam is the perfect example of Iman. And the murder of Imam Hussain, Yazid ibn Muawiyah, is the best example of a person who is a zalim, who is committing injustice. Because one's needy, the other one is needless. Needless as humans can be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every single one of us for a purpose. And every single one of us, for us there will be a day where we will meet our Creator. And when we say meet, we don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in dunya or akhirah. But every nafs that exists, be it the nafs of the Imam or the nafs of humans, exists in a particular way and has a special direction and specific way that it interacts with the Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at individuals around you, yourselves for example, there are certain things that no one can deny. For example, our existence. The fact that we exist. Because some philosophers have the notion that this is a dream, that this life is a dream, and when you die, you wake up from the dream. Now for some people, truly, this life is a dream, but in a different sense. And when they die, reality hits them, but it's too late. But that's again another discussion. But for now, I want to explain certain aspects with regards to these ayahs so we can complete our discussion with regards to Iman. Number one, anything that gives you conviction, that gives you reality, is true knowledge. Knowledge within itself, or ilm, as it's in Arabic, is split into two parts. At least in certain categories it's split into two parts. Some may argue that it's split into more, or these two parts are not accurate. But let's, for example, stick to these two parts. One, ilm al-husuli, two, ilm al-huduri. One part of ilm, one part of knowledge is a knowledge that everybody is born with. Every single one of us has a particular knowledge within ourselves. We did not gain the knowledge. We didn't learn it. We did not read a book. It was there. A child knows that he or she exists. They are sure of their own being without having to learn it. A child feels love towards the mother, towards those that love it. The feeling of love is not taught, but it's within themselves. The feeling of hunger is not taught, but it's within themselves. A human wants goodness for him or herself and wants to stay away from what is dangerous. This natural feeling of wanting goodness and staying away from something that is bad, that's dangerous, it's not taught to us, but it's within us. We are born with this ilm. We didn't read it or go through intermediaries in order to receive this ilm. We had it. There was another time that we never had it and had to learn. However, the same child may touch fire once or twice before he realizes fire is hot and heat burns. And it's a bad thing. So they'll cry once, twice, they'll realize that they won't do it again. The majority of the knowledge that we have in our minds right now is knowledge that we have learned. I'll give you an example. Every single one of you that are sat here have different pictures in your mind. Today, for example, we want to discuss Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. All of you who have been to Karbala have seen the Dariha of Abu Fadl Abbas. All of you have a picture in your mind that have been there, correct? Every one of those pictures is different to the other person. Every one of you has seen the same Dariha, but your picture will be different to the person next to you. It's the same picture, it's the same place, but different pictures. Why? Because you saw it in a different angle, with different eyes, with different lighting. So your perception of what you saw is different to the perception of the different person. Now, again, the difference between perception and reality is something that we'll talk about some other time as well. But I want to mention this. When I say the Dariha of Abu Fadl Abbas, automatically your mind goes to that picture. Why? Because you saw it. Someone told you that you're going to the Haram of Abbas alayhi salam. You go there, you see the Dariha, you have a mental picture of it. Now you've learned. When I say Karbala, you remember Karbala. When I say Abbas, you remember Abbas. Correct? This is ilm al-husuli or tahsili. You've learned it, you've gained it. Whereas the first part, there was no gaining knowledge. It was instilled within you. One of the things that is installed within us when we're born is a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that is within us as soon as we are born is what? The belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, later on you call it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a child, you don't call it Allah. As a child, you don't call it God because you've not learned languages yet. But there is a connection, there is a feeling within every single one of us. And the interesting thing is, those people that say, we don't believe in God, when they're in trouble, what do? They ask God for forgiveness. They ask God for help. In fact, the hadith says this. Someone says, what is God? How do I see God? It says, when you go into sea, have you ever been to sea? The man says, yes. He says, have you ever experienced a time when the ship is at sea and it's raining and there is no rescue and you look onto the skies for help? He said, yes. He said, when you look into the skies for help, that's seeking assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's God. And that's the relationship between you and God. This relationship that every single one of us has and are born with is a relationship that differs. Just like the picture in your mind differs, this differs as well. Every single being has a different relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as every fingerprint of every person is different to the other fingerprint of another person, or your iris in your eyes is different to the other person. In fact, your face is different to someone else. Every single human is different in many ways to the other person. Also, the link that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different. The relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different and is unique. No one can say that the relationship I have with Allah is better than yours, or what you have with Allah is better than the other person's, because no one knows what is within the other person. No one knows about the relationship that a person has with their Creator, because only Allah knows what relationship His creation has with Him. Regardless of what the person looks like, or regardless of what the person seems like, internally they have something within them. Every person has this. Now, depending on in our lives how we use this power that's within us, this faith that Allah installed within every single creation, how we activate it, how we allow it to grow. How we feed it is what directly affects the outcome. Every single one of you sat here today is sat for a reason. You've come here for why? In order to strengthen this relationship. If I tell you why have you come here today, you will see me, I've come from Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Another person will come from Abu Abbas alayhi salam. Another person says I've come from Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. Another person says I've come here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the main reason you're here is to strengthen that link that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created within you when you were born. Because if you have this feeling and you work on it, what happens? You become complete in your iman. And what happens when you become complete in your iman? You don't need the rest of bashariyah. You don't need the rest of human beings. It doesn't matter what they think of you anymore. A person cares about what others think. And their entire being is about how they're perceived by other people. When the iman is da'if, when the iman is weak. When you have strength in your iman, then what you care about is what Sahib al-Zaman sees, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, not the person next to you. You leave your house thinking, is Imam al-Zaman happy with me today? Today was Friday. Did I do dua nudbah? Did I do sa'at samad? Did I do all the mustahabbat? Did I remember my Imam? Did I do ghusl al-Jum'ah? Did I recite Surah Al-Jum'ah? Did I recite Surah Yasin? What did I do for Imam al-Zaman? Did I pay sadaqah? But if it's weak, what happens is you look for attention from elsewhere. Let me make myself in a way that others will like me. Others will respect me. Others will want to be friends with me. Because within, I'm weak. I require other people's approval because I'm weak within. Because I've not worked on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. I have not used the full potential of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. There was a study done by researchers in a particular university for certain mental institutes. It said that sick people, people that fall into various diseases, various health issues, if they have faith, they have a considerable higher chance than those who do not have faith. Even recovery from physical sickness has to do with how you've developed your faith. The faith of a mu'min and the iman of a mu'min is what gets him through his life into the other side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for completion, to be complete. There is a reason why me and you are here. Every single one of us has that link. That link comes with responsibility. That link what we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes with what? A burden. What is that? We have potential. We have abilities. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It doesn't matter what color you are. You have the ability to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and humanity with that link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with that faith that you have. Different people have different amounts of responsibility. But the responsibility remains alive. What is that responsibility that we have? Because we said yesterday that a human being is only alive if he has faith. If you look at many of the mental illnesses that exist today, it exists from what? Young people becoming depressed for what? What is the core reason young members of society become depressed? It's because they have no aim, they have no goal, they don't know where they're going. What is this life for? Why are we here? If you have no faith, then surely you will become depressed. There is no goal, you're not running to anything, you're not moving towards anything. And if you're running towards nowhere. Have you seen people look at their watch all the time? Have you seen people look at their phones 24/7? They're addicted. You tell them to put their phone aside for half an hour, all they can think about is when that half an hour finishes so they can open their phone again. They go to sleep, they look at their phone. They wake up halfway through the night and they look at their phone. They wake up in the morning, they look at their phone. If they recite the Quran once in a year in Shahr Ramadan, they look at their phone next to the Quran. Why? Because that internal link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not been nurtured. What Allah installed in us has been put to the side. Instead, we're running after nothing. Those of us who are working from 6 a.m. up to 9 p.m., if you ask, what are you running for? Where are you running to? Right now, all of you are sitting in Canada, in Toronto. Some of you are taxi drivers. If you go outside, you will see taxi drivers. Can you imagine that someone sits in a taxi and tells the driver that put your foot on the gas pedal and go fast? The taxi driver will ask you what? Where do you want to go to? What's the destination? You will say, I don't know, but just go very fast. The taxi driver, if he has any sense, he will say, I will not move. Until you give me a specific destination, I will not put my foot on the gas. No sane person, no person with mental capacity will put their foot on the gas pedal and go 110 miles an hour to nowhere. They want a destination. Yet, many people today are driving at 200 miles an hour, 300 miles an hour to nowhere. You ask them, where are you going? I'm late for work, and I have to do overtime, and I have to work on Saturday, then I have to work on Sunday. To do what? What are you running to in order to have a house? And then what? A second house for security. And then what? Shares. And then what? Stocks. And then what? Cash. Liquidity. And then what? More cars. Private jet. And then what? There is no ending to the wants of a human being. So what are you running for? Where are you running to? Stop. Come back to reality. Look at the faith that Allah gave us and the beautiful soul that He created. Stop thinking about what other people think, how they may look at you if you have money or wealth or status or good looks or nice clothes or whatever it is that you think will put you in a better position. Instead, speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Speak to the Imam of your time, the 12th Imam. Ya Sahib al-Zaman, what will make you happy? Let me put my foot on the pedal at 300 miles an hour to please you, Ya Imam al-Zaman. Let me put my foot down at this speed to do anything that Imam al-Zaman wants from me, rather than put my foot down for dunya. And then what? When you leave this dunya, you will have spent no time with your children who would not even recite a Fatiha for you, and they will spend all your hard-earned money, and Yawm al-Qiyam, you have to answer for it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more you've earned in dunya, the more questions there will be in akhirah. If it's halal, there will be questions. If it's haram, there will be punishment. But either way, what are we running for? Marhum Allam al-Amini, may Allah bless his soul, he wrote the book of Al-Ghadir. In one of his lectures, he says this. He says, why is it that you run to save money? If it's for your children, then either your children are mu'mineen or they're not mu'mineen. Either your children are believers or your children are not believers. If your children are believers, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears that He will look after them. And if they're not believers, why are you saving money for them anyway? They will not benefit you in your grave. So my point is, if we take a step back and look at what the true reality of Iman is, completion is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to become complete. Some people ask, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew where we're going to be. He knew where Ali and Hassan and Abbas and Hussain and Zahra and whoever your names are. Allah knew where you would be tonight and yesterday and tomorrow. And Allah will know on the day of judgment whether you will go to hell or heaven. So what's the point of creation then? Why create us if He knows what's going to happen to us? The answer to this is that the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fact that He knows what will happen to every single creation, does not affect their actions. My actions are not affected by the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what I will do. Many of you are students in schools and universities. Some of you are teachers or lecturers. When you have your students study, the teacher from a month or two after the semester starts realizes which student will pass and which student will fail. The knowledge of the teacher of who will fail and who will pass will not affect the student. It's the student's will to get good grades that will affect the end results. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. However, we have free will to change ourselves. We have free will to be different people. Every single one of us has huge capacity. Every human has a capacity to be complete. Do you know what completion means? Completion means to be greater than the malaika. The hadith says that we created the malaika and we gave them intellect. We created animals and we gave them shahwa, lust. And we created humans and we gave them both. Any human that can allow his intellect to overcome his shahwa, his lust, will be greater than the malaika. And any human who allows his shahwa, his lust, to overcome his intellect will be worse than animals. So we have the capacity to become worse than animals or better than the malaika. We have the capacity to kill Imam Hussain and be Yazid, and we have the capacity to be what? Higher than the malaika with Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. The capacity is there. It's not easy. No one should be in the delusional state that it's easy to be one of the ashab Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. It is not. Don't think that if we were there tomorrow, every single one of us would be taking arrows in our chests and defending the son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, it's not the case. It's easier said than done. Everyone talks a good talk, but when it comes to action, people are different. If your Imam today came to you and said, give up the things that you love most, if it's your children that you love most, Imam said, give it to us. Give them to us. Would you? If you build an empire of money, billions of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever it is, houses, complexes, and the Imam said, give everything and live on the street, how many would do it? And how many would say, no, yeah, Imam, please, give us something. I need to have my respect. I need to have my children. I need to have the X, Y, Z. If we're not willing to let go of our kids, if we're not willing to let go of our money, and we think we'd be willing to let go of our blood for Imam Hussain, it takes a very high level of iman to be willing to die for what you believe in. It's easier said than done. Who can be the person that gives their blood for what they believe? It's the person that does not care about other people apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wakes up from the first time in the morning. Every time that shaitan challenges him, he curses shaitan and says, Ya Allah, I'm with you. Ya Sahib al-Zaman, I'm with you. All around me are shayateen. All around me are devils that want me to be diverted different paths, but I will be in your path. The fact that you've entered this majlis tonight, the majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, means that you've had to make certain decisions. You've had to push back the shaitan to become here. Otherwise, there are many other things you could do. I'm sure you know people that are of the same faith as you and they're not here tonight. You've been blessed to come here, but you've had to make a sacrifice to come here. And that sacrifice will have consequences. Because it's like ladders and it has steps. Iman has steps. You don't just go fight from the 0 to the 100 in one go. You take steps. So when you go against your nafs and when you go against shaitan, you go step by step by step higher. Every time you take a step, you feel better about yourself. There's a difference between the high that you feel with spirituality and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the high that you may feel with drugs and alcohol, God forbid. Anyone will tell you that anybody that takes drugs or has taken drugs or anybody has taken alcohol or in fact social media, when you look at your phones, there is a reaction that happens with your brains. Endorphins are endorsed in your brains, released in your brains. You get a rush when there is a text message, there's a WhatsApp message, there's a Facebook message, Twitter message, whatever it is. But the problem with these social media and these tweets and these highs is that there is a low. When drunk people become sober, their problem is not resolved, but it's 10 times worse than it was to begin with. When people take drugs, when they come down, their problem is far worse than before they took the drugs. Whereas spirituality is the other way around. When you connect to your Lord, when you connect to your Creator, when you pray to Him, when you have that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the next day you feel better. And you go higher and higher and higher and higher. Eventually you get to a stage where no longer listening to shaitan becomes desirable. No longer looking at the non-mahram becomes beautiful and enjoyable. No longer eating haram becomes something that you fancy doing. At that point, you begin to think correctly as you were created to do so. When you go to social media and look at the world that it has been created around you, everyone is connected. I'll give a lecture here today. In the remotest of villages, they'll hear me live. You can tweet something, you can send a message, and it will go viral all around the world. The entire world is like one small city, or even smaller than that. Correct? Never has human beings been so connected as today. Yet, never have humans been as alone as today, as depressed as today. When we were disconnected from one another, when internet did not exist, families were much more connected and people were much more happier. Look at the suicide rates today. Look at the depression rates today. And they all exist with all these people that have social media. They're connected to everybody. But in reality, they're disconnected from everybody and everything. Because no one knows what's going on within themselves. And no one cares. If you want the truth, the majority of the people that are friends with you on social media don't really care what's inside you. But there is one man that cares. If you take one thing from this lecture, take this hadith. The hadith is from our 12th Imam. أرواحنا له الفداء. He says, لو علموا شيعتي حبي لهم لماتوا من شوق رؤيتي. If my Shi'as knew how much I love them, they would die in anticipation of seeing me. They would perish in anticipation of seeing me. Imam Zaman is saying that if we knew how much love this man had for every single one of us, that we would perish, we would die. We could not control ourselves. We could not wait to see this man. And yet we go to other people. Our Prophet says to Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam, Ya Ali, إن رأيت الناس يشتغلون بعيوب الناس أنت اشتغل بعيوب نفسك. يا علي إن رأيت الناس يشتغلون للدنيا أنت اشتغل لآخرتك. Ya Ali, if you see people backbiting and talking about other people, you work on yourself. Don't worry about other people. يوم القيامة, we will write in our own graves. No one has to answer for me and I don't have to answer for everyone else. So why do I care to backbite and talk badly against other people? Let me fix myself first. 2, Ya Ali, if you see people that are working for dunya, their entire means and thought is dunya. You, Ya Ali, think about your akhirah. Dunya is not going to stay. It's not going to be beneficial for you. When you do all these things, you become nafs al-mutma'innah. You become mistaq al-ayah al-mubarakah that talks about Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. You become a nafs who is happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with them. What do I mean when I say you are happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because unfortunately today, when people go through trials and tribulations, they say, you know what? I'm not happy with Allah. Allah has put me through so many difficulties, so many trials, so many tribulations. If Allah loved me, He would not have done this. The most loved of people is put through trials and tribulations. The most loved of people is put through their paces. Allah says to us that if you want to see a mu'min, then know that no 40 days goes by unless he has a serious problem. Every mu'min is tested. Why are we tested? Because through the tests and passing the test, we go on the ladder of Iman. Every time that you have patience through what the world has thrown at you, you go up one step and another step. But if these tests don't come your way, then you cannot complete yourself. And Allah created us for being complete. Allah created us to be more powerful than the malaika, more powerful than the angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to have a nafs that is complete in every way. Being sick, being poor, having problems, marital problems, friendship problems. These are all part and parcel of life. It is said that Musa alayhi salam, who was Kalimullah, he used to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day he saw a man and he said, what is it you're looking for? He said, I'm looking for happiness. I want happiness in this dunya. Allah said to Musa, tell this man not to look for something that was not created. It was not created. What is he looking for? Happiness? It's not there. So be content with what you have and you'll be happy. That's it. The man who we have all gathered here tonight is a shining example of completion of Iman. This man is not an Imam. This man is not the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet if you want to look at Iman and patience, there is no better example than Fadl Abbas alayhi salatu wasalam. From the youngest age, he shows examples that nowhere else in history we've seen. At the youngest age, he's always there with his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, in the mosque. With Hassan and Hussain in the mosque. Let me open one bracket here. As grateful that everyone should be for being in these majalis, and there is nowhere better to be than the majalis of Abdullah alayhi salatu wassalam, and nothing better to do than shed tears for Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wassalam. Don't forget, there is no use being in these majalis until 12 p.m., 1 a.m. with your friends, with your family, and your Fajr prayer, your Subh prayer is qada, you not pray it. You shout at your mother, you shout at your father. You're not going to go up this ladder. You're burning the ladder of Iman for yourself. There are certain pillars, foundations that everything else is built on top of. The respect for your elders, especially father, mother, who their entire lives is for you. The respect for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to at the very least do what is compulsory upon you. Not mustahabbat. Mustahabbat is second. At least what is compulsory. Prayers. One should be ashamed as a human being to eat and sleep like an animal and not to get up 5 times a day in front of Kaaba and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we have an appointment with anybody, we'll make sure that we dress our best dresses, put our best clothes on, put our perfumes on to make sure we're on time 5-10 minutes early. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given us an appointment and we miss it and don't even think about it. It's disgraceful. Disgraceful. Inshallah, it's none of us. Inshallah, it's none of us. So Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam comes and prays in the mosque. Qambar comes and prays in the mosque. Qambar is who? The servant of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam. The servant of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam has such a high position that he gains shahada for the love of Ali. Remember we talked about it? The highest iman is to give your blood, give your life for Ali and the sons of Ali. Qambar, the servant of Ali, does this. They kill him because of his love for Ali. Now Qambar was in the mosque. Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam was in the mosque. Amir al-Mu'minin was in the mosque. Imam Hussain comes in, requests some water. Qambar is the servant of Ali. He runs to get the water. Abu al-Fadl Abbas says, wait. Before you go, I want to go and get the water. Qambar waits. Abu al-Fadl Abbas is young. He's younger than Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. He runs and comes back with water over his head. And he's a small child. All his clothes are drenched wet from water. All the people at the mosque see Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's put his head down, he's crying. Ya Ali, what are you crying for? It's normal. A brother brings brother some water, huh? Why is it you have tears in your eyes? Ali says, no. None of you know what Qamar al-Bani Hashim is trying to say to me. He's trying to say the only person that brings Ibn Ali is me. On the day of Ashura in Karbala, Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam sees that Hussein is on his own. It is time for him to go for what his mission has been all his life. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, his entire life has been for this moment. I will recite the maqtal as is written. I will not add or take away from it. It says that he comes to Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. And it says, Ya Aba Abdullah, I want to ask you permission. Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam looks at him. He says, Ya Abu al-Fadl, Ya Abbas, Anta sahibu liwa'i. You're the flag bearer of this army. If you're killed, who will take over? If the children see that the flag of Abbas is no longer there, their hopes will be shattered. The Maqtal says that he hugged Abbas alayhi salam. Abbas said to him, Ya Aba Abdullah, laqad dhaqa sadri min ha'ula'i al-munafiqeen wa arid akhudha ath-thara minhum. I want to take revenge on these munafiqeen. Please allow me. The Maqtal says, Aba Abdullah alayhi salam akhadha al-Abbas wa baka'a buka'an shadida. Imam Hussain alayhi salam took Abbas into his arms and began to cry. All of you who have hajat, Babul Hawaij is Abu al-Fadl Abbas. کسایی که میخوان برن کربلا هیچ شب بهتر از این شب نیست. کسایی که حاجت دارن در باب الحوائج ابو الفضل عباس برید گدایی بکنید، با این اشکا برید در خداوند متعال بلکه حاجاتمون رو بدن. اخذ العباس سیفه و فرسه وراهل الأعداء وقتل كثير منهم. Abu al-Fadl Abbas went towards the water. He killed many of the enemies. Abu al-Fadl Abbas is born for this day. Allah created him for this day. He gets to the water. When he sees the water, he remembers Imam Ali alayhi salam telling him, Ya Abbas, if you see water on the day of Ashura, make sure Hussain drinks the water before you. Abu al-Fadl Abbas does not drink any of the water. Even his horse does not drink the water. وأخذ الغرب وملأها من الماء. He took the water on his right hand. وأخذها بيده اليمنى متوجها إلى المخيم. He took the water towards Sukaina and towards Ruqayya. عموتون در براتون آب میاره. نگران نباشید. بر اسب سوار شد. آب به دستش بود. همه دشمنا اومدن از اطراف درخت ها. ظهر العدو من خلف الاشجار. They came from behind the trees. They caught Abu al-Fadl Abbas off guard. They cut the right hand of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. He took the water with his left hand going to the Mukhayyam. Abu al-Fadl Abbas was not going to let the water go. When they saw this, hundreds more came and surrounded him. They cut the left hand of Abbas alayhi salam. وأخذ القربة بأسنانه. He took the water by his teeth going to Sukaina and Ruqayya, until the enemies saw that Abu al-Fadl Abbas is not going to be an easy kill. So they told everyone to surround him. Everyone to hit him with whatever they had. Some people hit him with stones. Some people hit him with sticks. Some people hit him with their arrows. Other people took their swords. Other people aimed at the water until an arrow came to the eye of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. And another arrow came to the water. وقتی آقا دید که آب باز شد امیدش از بین رفت. وظهر العدو من خلف الأشجار رافعا سيفه ضربه على رأسه وقع على الأرض. از پشت دشمن آمد ضربه خونین را بر فرق نازنین قمر بنی هاشم زد. آقا افتاد بر زمین. When he fell onto the ground, he shouted, Ya akha, adrak akhak. امشب گریه نکنیم کی گریه کنیم؟ If we don't cry, when are we going to cry? Ya Allah, our Abdullah hears the calling of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, saying, Oh brother, come to my rescue. Sukaina is there, Ruqayya is there, Zainab Salamullah alayha. They've been treated so nicely with Abbas. What would they do after Abbas? They've been brought here by Abbas, protected by Abbas. Now he's calling for his brother to come to him. Imam Hussain alayhi salam sits under the Jannah. He goes to Imam Abu al-Fadl Abbas Salamullah alayh, and he says, Al-an inkasar dhahri wa qallad hilati. Al-an kamar baradarت شکست. الان من هلالم شد هلال ما. کمر برادرت خم شد. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, please with Imam Hussain, please don't take me to the girls. Their uncle has promised them water. I have no water to take. I have no water to take to the girls. Leave me be in this spot. If you see Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, he's buried with a distance to Imam Hussain. Some of the Maqatil says because of this, he did not agree for Imam Hussain to take him to see the ladies. He was ashamed to go back without any water. مرد به این میگن بگو به امام حسین قسم میدم به مادرت منو اینجا بگذار خجالت میکشم از رقیه خجالت میکشم از سکینه بدون آب برگردم بر خیمه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون باسمك العظيم الأعظم العجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. There is a sick person in hospital. They contacted me recently tonight. He has cancer in the stomach. If everyone can recite 5 times this ayah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة تسبق الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.